Chosen one, your recent action was so powerful that God released a miracle for you. I need you to stop and think about something you did recently. Not something dramatic, not something that made the news or earned applause from the people around you or produced any immediate, visible result that confirmed it was the right thing to do. Something quiet, something that cost you something real time, money, pride, comfort, or the far more expensive currency of choosing integrity when compromise was available and nobody would have known the difference. Something you did when you were tired, when the evidence in your circumstances was arguing against it, when the rational, self-protective part of your mind was presenting a perfectly reasonable case for doing the opposite, and you did it anyway. I need you to hold that moment in your mind right now, because what I am about to tell you about it is going to change the way you understand everything that is happening and everything that is about to happen in your life. That action was not small. It was not lost in the noise of ordinary days. It was not unnoticed by the one who notices everything that the world overlooks. It was a trigger, a specific, powerful, spiritually significant trigger that set into motion a response from heaven that your current circumstances are not yet large enough to contain. A miracle is in motion, and it began with what you did when no one was watching. Let me describe what has been happening in the interior of your life, not the exterior version that other people observe, but the real one. You have been exhausted in a way that you have not fully admitted to anyone. Not physically exhausted, Alana, though, that may be present too. Exhausted in the specific, particular way that comes from sustained faithfulness without sustained visible reward. From continuing to choose well, act rightly, give generously, believe consistently, and then watching the day end without the circumstances reflecting any of it. There is a specific kind of weariness that faithful people carry that unfaithful people never experience. And it is more disorienting than the weariness of struggle, because at least struggle makes logical sense as an explanation for tiredness. The weariness of faithful, unrewarded persistence is harder to justify, harder to explain, harder to carry without the quiet, gnawing question of whether the faithfulness is actually producing anything at all. You have been asking that question, in the private hours, in the moments between the public consistency and the private honesty, wondering whether the choices you keep making, the ones that cost you something, the ones that nobody is applauding, the ones that require you to be better than your circumstances, are currently rewarding you for being, are actually connected to anything real. I want to answer that question today, directly, with the specificity it deserves. They are connected to something real, more real than your current circumstances can reflect, and the miracle that your recent action triggered is the most concrete evidence. Available that the connection has always been there, that nothing faithful has ever been wasted, that every costly choice has been recorded, and that the recording has been building towards something that is now ready to be released. There is a distinction that matters enormously, and that most spiritual conversations blur in ways that cost people the clarity they need. Intention is the internal. The desire, the hope, the prayer, the plan. All of it genuinely matters. None of it is wasted. But intention alone, however sincere, however sustained, however accompanied by genuine faith, does not release the same response from heaven that intention expressed through action does. Action is the material expression of faith. It is the moment when the internal becomes external, when the invisible becomes visible, when what you believe converts into what you do at cost, in real time, in the specific circumstances of your actual life. And that conversion, that specific, costly, real-world expression of internal faith through external action, triggers a response that intention alone does not. Your recent action was that conversion. Whatever it was, whatever the specific thing you did that cost you something real. It moved from the realm of what you believe into the realm of what you demonstrate. And that demonstration unlocked something that was prepared for your life, but that was waiting for exactly that kind of evidence before it could be released. The miracle is not coming because you wished for it. It is coming because you acted for it. And that distinction between receiving in response to wishing and receiving in response to acting is one of the most important things a chosen person can understand about how provision and breakthrough actually work. Here is what I want you to understand about the moment when you made the choice that triggered what is now moving in your direction. It was not evaluated by its outcome. It was not measured by whether it produced an immediate visible result. It was not assessed by whether anyone around you noticed it or affirmed it or confirmed that it was the right thing to do. It was seen completely, fully, in all of its specific detail, including the part that you never showed anyone, the internal resistance you overcame, the fear you felt and acted through, the specific cost, whatever form that cost took, that you paid without knowing whether the payment would produce anything. That full seeing, that complete accounting of not just what you did, but what it required of you to do it, is the basis of the miracle response. Heaven does not reward performance. It responds to reality. And the reality of what you did, seen in its complete, unedited, full-cost form, was significant enough to release what is now on its way. You do not need to advertise what you did. You do not need to ensure that. Other people know the cost of it. The one who needed to see it saw it completely, and the response reflects that completeness. This truth is important enough that I want to make sure it lands clearly before we move past it. The miracle that is being released into your life is not primarily about relief. It is not simply about making the current difficulty more manageable or removing the current pressure or returning your circumstances to a neutral position from which you continue as before. It is about building. It is carrying within it the seed of something, a direction, an opportunity, a resource, a relationship that is meant to alter the trajectory of your life rather than simply improve the quality of your current chapter. This means that when it arrives in whatever form it takes, through whatever channel it comes, the most important question is not, does this solve my immediate problem? It is, what is this building, and how do I cooperate with the building rather than simply consuming the relief? Miracles given to chosen people are almost always more than they appear on the surface. The immediate form, the financial provision, the open door, the unexpected opportunity is real and should be received fully. But beneath the immediate form is a direction, a next chapter, a specific forward movement that the miracle is designed to initiate. Pay attention to the direction. Receive the miracle and then ask what it is pointing toward, because the pointing is as significant as the provision. There is a principle so consistent across spiritual teaching, across the observed lives of people who experience genuine divine provision, across every wisdom tradition that has addressed the relationship between private action and public reward, that I want to present it with the weight its consistency deserves. What is done faithfully in secret produces reward in the open, not always immediately, not always in the form anticipated, but consistently, reliably, across every life that has trusted the principle long enough to observe its outworking. What is given in private, what is chosen rightly when no one is watching, what is maintained faithfully when every external incentive to compromise is present, produces something in the visible dimension of life that the visible inputs alone could not have generated. The recent action you took, whatever its specific form, was a private act of faith. It was done not for applause, not for recognition, not for the immediate return that would have made it a transaction rather than a sacrifice. It was done from the interior, from the specific, unperformable, genuine quality of character that the difficult seasons of your life have been building. And that interior quality expressed through that specific action is what triggers the open reward. The reward that is now moving toward you through channels you have not been watching, in a form you may not have anticipated, at a timing that only makes sense from the perspective of the one who sees the full picture. Watch for it. It is coming into the visible. This truth is practical in a way that the others have not been, and I want to give it the practical weight it deserves. Divine miracles almost never arrive in a vacuum. They almost always arrive through people. Through a conversation that opens unexpectedly. Through a relationship that develops suddenly into something more significant than its origins suggested. Through a person who appears in your life at a specific moment and offers something, an opportunity, a resource, a connection, a word that alters the direction of your circumstances in ways that cannot be fully explained by the ordinary logic of how things happen. This means that you're positioning relational, physical, spiritual matters to the delivery of what has been released. Are you in environments where the people who carry what is coming for you are likely to be? Are you in conversations where your gifts and your calling are visible enough that someone carrying an opportunity would recognize the alignment? Are you emotionally and spiritually open enough That when the person arrives, when the conversation begins, that is carrying more than it appears to be carrying, you will be present enough to recognize it rather than distracted by the weight of what you have been carrying. Position yourself, not frantically, not with the anxious energy of someone who is afraid of missing what is coming, but intentionally, with the calm, faith-based deliberateness of someone who believes that provision is moving toward them and who wants to be in the right place to receive it when it arrives. The miracle coming toward your life is not the same size as the miracles you have received in previous seasons. It is larger, significantly, measurably, visibly larger. And that increase in scale is not random. It corresponds directly to the increase in capacity that this difficult season has produced. Think about what you can hold now that you could not have held a year ago. What complexity you can navigate that would have overwhelmed a previous version of you. What uncertainty you can sit with, what pressure you can sustain, what faith you can maintain in the absence of visible evidence because you have done all of it, at increasing levels of difficulty, through a season that was specifically designed to build precisely this capacity. The miracle coming is sized to the version of you that the season produced, not to the version that entered the season, and those two versions are not the same person, not in character, not in wisdom, not in the specific, tested, proven resilience that significant miracles require of their recipients. You are larger than you were. The miracle is sized accordingly. And the fit between who you have become and what is coming is more precise than anything you could have engineered on your own. This truth requires the particular courage of releasing a very specific kind of control, the control of expectation. You have imagined your miracle. In moments of hope, in seasons of prayer, in the specific mental pictures that form when you allow yourself to think about what divine intervention in your circumstances would actually look like. You have developed a picture, a form, a specific shape that breakthrough is supposed to take, and the miracle that is actually coming may not match that picture, may arrive through a different door than the one you have been watching, may look different in its early form than what the fullness of it will eventually produce, may require you to say yes to something that your template for breakthrough does not. Include and to trust that the yes is right even before the full picture is visible. Release the template, not because your imagination of what is possible is wrong, but because what God has prepared for you is larger and more precisely suited to your specific calling than anything your imagination could have constructed from within the limitations of your current circumstances. The miracle knows what form to take. Your job is to be open enough that you recognize it when it arrives in its actual form rather than only when it matches the form you expected. That openness, that willingness to receive the real over the imagined, is the final piece of preparation. And it is yours to choose. Every significant miracle released into the life of a chosen person carries within it a dual nature. The first dimension is personal, the provision, the relief, the resource, the opportunity that directly improves the circumstances of the recipient's life. This dimension is real and should be received fully and without guilt. The second dimension is missional, the way in which what was given to you is meant to flow through you into the lives of other people. The specific deployment of your miracle in service of the purpose your life is designed to fulfill. Both dimensions are real, both are intentional, and neglecting the second in exclusive focus on the first is one of the most consistent ways that chosen people fail to fully honor the significance of what they have been given. When your miracle arrives in whatever form it takes, ask both questions. What does this do for me? And then, what does this equip me to do for others? The answer to the second question is where your miracle becomes a legacy rather than a moment, where what was given in one generation begins producing fruit that extends into the next, where the specific, personal provision of a faithful God becomes the demonstrated, visible, undeniable evidence to everyone watching. That faithfulness produces outcomes that the world's logic alone cannot explain. Be the demonstration. Receive and then deploy, and watch what the deployment produces in directions you could not have reached from where you were before. You have been living for an extended period in a specific spiritual posture, the posture of believing without seeing, of maintaining faith in the absence of visible evidence, of continuing to act from the conviction of things hoped for, when the things themselves were not yet present in the material dimension of your life. That posture was necessary. It was the specific, demanding, character-forming spiritual work of this season. And you have done it imperfectly, as all of us do everything but genuinely. With real cost and real persistence and real faith that was tested at the level that genuine faith always is. But the season of believing without seeing is ending. And what is beginning the season of seeing what you have been believing requires a different set of eyes. Eyes that are not so accustomed to absence that they fail to recognize presence. Eyes that are not so trained by disappointment that they approach arriving provision with reflexive skepticism. Eyes that can see miracle in ordinary form, can recognize divine provision arriving through human channels, can identify the hand of God in circumstances that the faithless would attribute entirely to luck or timing. Begin developing those eyes now, before the miracle arrives. Practice seeing what is already present, the smaller provisions, the answered prayers you may have underregistered, the evidence of faithfulness in your story that has been accumulating even in the seasons when the big breakthrough felt absent. Those eyes trained by gratitude, opened by expectation, sharpened by the practice of noticing what is rather than only what is not, are what will allow you to receive the arriving miracle in its full measure, rather than partially missing it because it does not match your expectation. The final truth, the one I want to drive home with everything I have. Chosen people have a specific and costly tendency that I want to name clearly, because naming it is the first step to overcoming it. They almost receive. They approach the threshold of their miracle, and then, at the last moment, through a combination of unworthiness, disbelief in the timing, and the protective mechanism of lowered expectation, they step back. They find reasons why it is not quite yet. Why do they need a little more preparation? Why the timing might be slightly off? Why the form of what is arriving might not be quite what was meant for them? And in the stepping back, in the almost receiving that lets the moment pass, rather than the full receiving that takes what is offered, they extend the waiting season unnecessarily. This is your moment, not your almost moment. Not the beginning of a process that will eventually lead to your moment. This specific, present, now available moment in which what has been released is ready to arrive. The recent action you took, the one that cost you something, the one that was seen in full, the one that triggered what is now moving, was the final act in a preparation that is now complete. You are not almost ready. You are ready. The miracle is not almost released. It is released. That remains is the full, open, completely present receiving of a chosen person who has done the work, paid the cost, maintained the faith, and arrived finally, completely, irrevocably at the moment that all of it was building toward. Receive it, now, completely. I want to speak to something that I believe is present in you as this conversation comes to its end. A hope that is slightly afraid of itself. The specific, fragile, precious hope of someone who has been disappointed enough times that hoping fully feels like risk they are not certain they can afford again. I am not going to tell you that hope is always easy or that the risk of it has no cost. I know better than that, and you deserve honesty more than you deserve comfortable words. What I am going to tell you is this. The hope you are feeling right now, that specific, particular, this time might be different quality of expectation that this conversation has stirred, is not naive. It is not the denial of someone who cannot face reality. It is the accurate perception of a chosen person who can sense, beneath the surface of what is currently visible, the movement of something real. And the action you took recently, the one that this entire conversation has been about, was real. It was seen. It was recorded. And the response it triggered is in motion. The miracle is coming, not as metaphor, not as eventual possibility, as current, active, in motion spiritual reality that is moving through natural channels toward material arrival in the circumstances of your specific life. Your job from this moment forward is to stay open, to stay expectant without becoming anxious, to stay ready without becoming rigid, to keep doing the kinds of faithful, costly, nobody is watching actions that triggered this response, not to earn what is already released, but because that is who you are. That is the character the season built. That is the chosen one you have become, and to receive fully, gratefully, without the guilt, and without the minimizing when what has been released finally arrives in the visible dimension of your life. It is coming, you are ready. And what happens next is going to make every day of the wait make perfect, undeniable, breathtaking sense. If this conversation reached something in you today, if the description of what you did recently landed with the weight of something true, subscribe. Every week we bring you the kind of deep, honest, spiritually grounded content that chosen people need at exactly the right moment. Your action was seen. Your miracle is released. And what is coming is worth every single thing this season has cost you. Stay faithful, stay open, and get ready to receive what heaven can no longer withhold.